The restaurant hummed with the familiar chaos of a Friday night. Dishes slammed together behind the kitchen doors. Glasses clinked. Laughter spilled from crowded tables where families leaned close, sharing stories over half-finished meals. Waiters darted between booths, gripping trays that looked just a little too heavy for their exhausted arms. Yet, in one quiet corner of the elegant dining hall, an older woman sat perfectly still, her diamond earrings catching the glow of the chandelier, as if they were watching the room for her. She was not just another customer. This was Eleanor Whitmore, a name that once dominated headlines, magazine covers, and business journals around the world. A billionaire philanthropist, a self-made powerhouse, a woman people whispered about with equal parts admiration and fear. Strangely, no one recognized her here. For decades, Eleanor had built her empire through relentless focus, sharp instincts, and a will so unbreakable that critics claimed she had no heart at all. To the public, she was untouchable. A woman who could buy anything she wanted with a single signature. But beneath the perfectly tailored designer dress, beneath the pearls resting against her collarbone, she carried a weight no amount of money could lift. A pain she never spoke about. The quiet devastation of losing her only daughter years ago, a loss that hollowed her. World and never truly healed, Eleanor rarely dined out. She preferred private chefs, silent dining rooms, and meals eaten alone in her vast mansion. Restaurants were too loud, too alive. But tonight, something had drawn her here. Maybe it was loneliness she could no longer ignore. Maybe it was fate quietly nudging her forward. Her gaze drifted across the room, unfocused, until a passing waitress made her pause. The young woman couldn't have been more than 22. Her uniform was clean and carefully pressed, yet frayed at the edges from years of use. Loose strands of hair escaped her bun as she steadied a tray with trembling hands. There was exhaustion in her posture, but also determination, the kind that suggested she was holding her life together by sheer will alone. Eleanor saw something in her immediately. It was in the way the young woman moved, tired yet steady, in the way she smiled politely at customers, even though the smile never quite reached her eyes. It was a familiar kind of strength, quiet, hard-earned, but what truly stole the air from Eleanor's lungs was not the girl herself. It was the necklace resting against her collarbone. It was small, silver-shaped, like a delicate locket. Eleanor's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around her wineglass as her hands began to tremble. That necklace, she knew it. She knew every curve, every tiny detail. It was the exact design she had commissioned years ago. A one-of-a-kind piece she had given her daughter on her 12th birthday. Her heart began to race as her mind spiraled. That locket had been custom-made. Only a few had ever existed, and one of them had belonged to her daughter, Lily, before the car accident that tore Eleanor's world apart. Seeing it now, hanging from a stranger's neck, felt impossible, unreal. Eleanor's chest tightened, panic and hope crashing into each other in a painful storm. Her voice shook as she softly called the waitress over. The young woman approached, concern flickering across her face. Eleanor glanced at her name tag. Anna, it read. Swallowing hard, Eleanor asked about the necklace, barely managing to get the words out. Anna froze. For a moment, she said nothing, her fingers instinctively closing around the locket as if to protect it. Then, in a quiet voice, Anna explained that it had belonged to her mother. She said her mother gave it to her before she passed away, telling her it was the most precious thing she owned, a symbol of love, sacrifice, and everything she'd endured. The words hit Eleanor like a breaking wave. Her composure collapsed. Tears spilled freely as she covered her face, sobbing openly in the middle of the restaurant. While nearby customers turned in stunned silence, heads turned. Conversations fell quiet. People stared, stunned by the sight of a powerful billionaire crying like a mother who had just lost her child all over again. But Eleanor didn't notice them. She didn't care. In that moment, wealth, status, and reputation meant nothing. Her tears weren't for money or public image. They were for fate, those invisible threads that had somehow led her to a young woman carrying the last piece of her daughter's memory. They sat together as time slipped by, and over the next hour, the story unfolded. Anna spoke softly, her voice steady but heavy with truth. She explained that her mother had been a single parent, always exhausted, always worried about rent, groceries, and keeping the lights on. She worked endless jobs, sacrificing sleep and comfort just to survive. The locket, Anna said, was her mother's most treasured possession, a reminder that love mattered more than anything money could ever buy. Eleanor listened, tears streaming down her face. Then she shared her own story, the regrets she carried every day. She admitted how she had been so focused on building her empire, chasing success, that she hadn't seen how quickly time with her daughter was slipping away. She confessed that the diamonds, the mansions, the fame, none of it filled the hollow space Lily had left behind. And as Eleanor looked into Anna's eyes, she saw it. The same quiet strength, the same fire to survive, the same resilience her daughter once had. But Anna's life was far from easy. She revealed her own struggles, her voice cracking just slightly. She was working 2 jobs, barely sleeping, while raising her younger brother after their mother's death. Bills were stacking up faster than she could pay them. Her dream of finishing school was slipping away, day by day. Still, she pushed herself through the exhaustion, terrified of failing her brother, terrified of becoming trapped in the same hardships her mother had fought so hard to escape. Eleanor listened, her heart wide open and aching. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a billionaire towering above the world. She felt like a grandmother, like someone who had been handed a rare second chance to pour love into a life that truly needed it. That night, Eleanor left the restaurant quietly, her steps slow and thoughtful. But sleep never came. The image of that silver locket haunted her, pulling at memories she had buried for years. By morning, she knew what she had to do. Eleanor returned to the restaurant the next day, but not as a customer. She came with purpose. Sitting across from Anna, she made an offer that would change everything. She told her she wanted to sponsor her education, pay off her family's debts, and help secure a future for both her and her brother. Anna's eyes widened in shock, and she immediately shook her head, insisting she didn't want charity. Her pride wouldn't allow it. Eleanor gently reached for her hand and reminded her that love doesn't always arrive as comfort. Sometimes it arrives as opportunity. She explained she wasn't offering charity, she was investing in someone who carried the spirit of the daughter she lost, and the love she wished she had given more freely when she had the chance. Anna finally broke down, tears streaming as she accepted, her gratitude too deep for words. From that moment on, their bond grew stronger. Eleanor became a guiding presence in Anna's life, grandmother figure who supported her, encouraged her, and stood by her side as she chased her dreams. And Anna gave Eleanor something no fortune ever could, a sense of family, belonging, and quiet redemption. the pain didn't vanish overnight. Anna still battled doubt. Eleanor still carried guilt and grief. But together, they learned how to carry those burdens without breaking in their connection. They discovered something extraordinary, that fate doesn't bring strangers together by accident, but by invisible threads woven from love and loss. Years later, as Anna graduated with honors and her brother stood proudly beside her, Eleanor sat in the front row, clapping through tears. The silver locket still rested against Anna's chest, shining softly a bridge between past and present. And Eleanor finally understood. Her daughter's memory lived on, not in wealth or legacy, but in love that continued to move forward one life at a time. Asterisk.